welcome to Tales from the Tips. I'm DA. Normally I say alongside 15-year tour caddy Mick Middlemo, but Mick's a working man. He's too busy for us these days, so I went out and grabbed a friend of ours, a good friend of the program, a frequent show contributor behind the scenes, mostly on text, but he is a Georgia Section PGA Pro and one of the top golf sellers here in the entire Southeast region, Mr. Chris Fortney. Chris, welcome back, my friend.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
I believe the last time you were on, I were on together was the Miracle for Mom golf outing. You did like back-to-back duties there in April.
We did, because I think we did that one, and then we went to we went to Sugarloaf.
Yeah, we were at TPC Sugarloaf for the Mitsubishi Classic presented by Venture, the Champions Tour event, and then we had, and then we were also at the Miracle for Mom. Same weekend, all of it happening the same weekend, Friday, Monday, you and I together, and then we had Joe from ATL Golfs joined us out at the Mitsubishi. How have you been?
I've been good. Working, traveling, hitting the road again tomorrow. Gonna head
where are we headed now?
We are headed to Augusta tomorrow for a couple days. Going to check out a few courses down there. And see some people down there and stop in on one of our favorite sponsors.
Nice.
Favorite people. So.
Some of your favorite people, yes. Mm-hmm. I have a little bit of explaining to do before we get into today's episode. I know you were listening. You caught us live during the live stream last week. We had some technical difficulties. Now, for those that do join us regularly, Mick and I were recording last Thursday after I played in a tournament here in Atlanta. We were at our good friends at Twin Peaks with James and Billy watching on as well. And usually with the software, and Chris just got to experience this firsthand, we're on an amazing platform called Riverside, and this is not an endorsement. This is also no slight on them either. Great program, very similar to most of your Zoom platforms out there, your video conferencing. It's got great capabilities, does all the recording. Normally works fantastic even with a guy halfway around the world. That being said, last week's audio on Mick's end was very mumbled. Now, there are times where, in this case, Chris would be speaking. I may not hear every word he's saying, but the audio is being picked up by the software, gets transcribed, and when we go through the editing process, everything works out great. Sounds great. It looks like we know what we're doing. Well, last week, Mick's audio was garbage. Hot garbage. Probably with the same thing, like he was saying hot garbage. I don't know what he was talking about last week. I pretended to listen, but at no point did I have an idea of what he was saying. And then when I gave the audio over to Slim said, "This is no good, bro. This is no good." So we just didn't have a chance to coordinate. So with Mick's overnight work schedule and what I've got going on, we land here at the Tour Championship. So Chris is going to help me get to through East Lake. We're going to recap the BMW Wyndham's big win. Rory returns back to form, much different than how we played in Memphis. Scotty gets something that no parent ever wants to get. I'm going to ask Chris the question I've asked Mick repeatedly. Have we seen the last of LIV? And if you were watching the Tour Championship last week, the BMW Championship, guys that started out in the content-producing business, gone to apparel, decided to put out a commercial last week. Clearly, it missed the editing process, and so good went to bad last week, and if you know, you know. We're going to touch on it briefly. Obviously, I have a lot of expertise in that area, given the fact that I run a sales organization that does audio commercials for a living. So with that, Chris, are you ready, sir?
Let's do it.
Let's grip it and rip it. Okay. Let's start with the BMW. Obviously, Wyndham, it was shades of the U.S. Open all over again for Wyndham. Gets out to an amazing, has an amazing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5-stroke lead going into Sunday, and then the wheels on the bus came falling off. Chris,
they did not go round and round.
What was it? Was it a Belle Reeve finally caught up to Wyndham? Was it Wyndham caught up to Wyndham? What do you think happened during that final round? And then what I want to also ask you is, and I know Wyndham has said that he finally knew that something was going to happen, and obviously the putt on 16 was huge. What do you think helped him propel to get over what happened last week?
I think that I know every golfer who's out there is going to go through and just hit a wall. Like, you could be playing good and something's going to tick off a little bit and then you're going to go a different direction. I think playing alongside Rory, who, you start 5 up. You feel you're going to be good. And then Rory starts fighting in there and people start giving him a little bit and he ties it. And he's going to have a look inside and say, hey, what do I need to do right now? And just has a mental reset, gets to 16 and just decides to birdie out and say, all right, I got it.
Yeah, and he said he leaned on his experiences from his past wins, and obviously it's very similar to what happened at Quail Hollow, then also this past year at Shinnecock at the U.S. Open. In both cases, he was able to pull through and win those tournaments, and then obviously Sunday, same thing. I think the Rory factor got to him at the beginning. Missed a couple early putts that he had made all week, and all of a sudden that cup goes from looking the size of a beach ball to the size of a shot glass, and you feel like you're hitting the putts, and it's just off. And I think, Dottie said the best on the broadcast. His tempo was off. Mm-hmm. Let me ask Chris, as a pro, as a teaching pro, an instructional pro, when you have a student that's you start seeing tempo going off, what are some of the resets that you stop them, and what are some of the processes you walk through with a student or even yourself when you're out there? Because it's not like you're immune to this either. What are some of the things that you do as a pro, but also as a teacher and instructor to help get your student or your athlete back in check?
I lean on breathing. Get your breathing in check and just slow that down, see what's in front of you, and address that. Everybody's been in the boat where you can't go backwards and fix something that just happened. You may have topped the ball 97 yards, and you have to reset from that point. Take a deep breath, recover, and move on. But for me, breathing and just slowing your mind down and getting back into a positive place is step one.
Yeah, I think that's a great learning lesson. I think that happens in anything in life. I think just taking that little bit of a step, knowing when to take it back. This would normally be where I would ask Mick as a caddy, what does he do to calm his player down? And I think it's the best way to look at it is if you said, and it's easier said, obviously, post tournament than it is in the moment. If I was standing on 16 on Sunday and I'm tied for the lead, am I good with being there? And most golfers that have been in any tournament will say, yes, give me that. Give me one up, give me even, give me a shot with 3 holes to play. And I think Wyndham even said it. He goes, I knew all I needed was that one to go in. And sure enough, he rolls it in on top of Rory. It almost was, Ryder Cup, match play style there.
Right.
I'm going to, put the pressure. They always say put the pressure on. Jack Nicklaus was always said, I would rather go first than second because I can put the pressure on. In situations like that, how do you respond? How do you normally handle some of those things?
If I break down like that?
Yeah.
I'll take a breath, I'll take a minute to walk, and I just reset everything. And put what I've done.
You like to walk. So if you're in a cart, you like to walk.
Oh, yeah, I need a little alone time. And just kind of see what's out there in front of me moving forward. Just because it's one of those. We all have playing partners that do well, whether it's Mick or Greg, you, like whoever's out there, James, that's playing. They all have certain keywords for each person, and they all help. And there's times where, for me personally, I need to be away from that, and I just need to listen to it in my head and walk down and clear it, and just hit the reset button.
Yeah. No, that's great advice, and I think that goes for. It doesn't matter if you're playing in tournament style, your weekend golf with your buddies. Heck, I even last Thursday, I started out great, and then all of a sudden, a couple of missed shots, and all of a sudden you start thinking in your mind, you're like, why is this going this way? And what do I have to do to fix it? And I think, to your point, just that quiet little walk, and it's not, you're not beating yourself up during
right.
it. You're just kind of just calming yourself down. And I think that's great words, especially for our younger, viewers and listeners of this, knowing that you've got to take that time for yourself. And even having a caddy alongside of you, having your buddy in the cart with you or walking alongside of you, sometimes you just need to let them walk ahead, or you just, stomping off is not a way to handle it. But if you just, you just go off, you know what, I'm just going to go handle this. You and I have been on the cart where I'm like, hey, take the cart. I'm going to walk
right.
up there. And you understand it. You respect that as a player and also as a friend.
Right. Well, a lot of times too, if you start missing, if you feel yourself slide 2, 3, 4 shots into this, a lot of people will start going forward and be like, I need to fix it, and start pressing and changing things instead of resetting and going back to what they were doing when they were playing well. Yeah. But I mean, on one, if you had Rory, you hit a 3-iron down, nestled up close, and he hits driver 150 yards past you, that's going to rattle you to start your round off. So I think when you talk about his nerves,
it's not like Wyndham's a short ball hitter either. I mean,
right.
He's used to being the long guy in the group, and so seeing that ball go bounding by another 20 yards, you're like going, "What the?
Right?
What do I?" It
Guess
reminds me of playing with the long.
Right.
You hit one out there and you're like, man, I got long drive for the 5 seconds until I pick it up and I hand it over to him.
It's like, you sure guys don't want to play this one? We're good.
Let me ask you this, because Wyndham, I agree. I think the Rory factor probably played a bigger factor into it than even Wyndham made out to, and I think Rory said obviously Rory couldn't find the fairway to save his life there, on Sunday, which I think helped Wyndham. I think if Rory was striping it, I think Sunday's story would be a little bit different because the crowd is getting behind Rory, and it's
right.
It's got to be defeating as an American to be on your home soil, on your own turf, and having a foreigner, so to speak, have a bigger crowd and following. Now,
right.
Rory's been out there for a long time. People love him. People respect him. There's been a lot said about Wyndham over the last couple of weeks. My co-host has not been a big fan. Let me ask you this question. If Wyndham's playing with Xander or somebody else, do you think it's a different story altogether, and do you think he runs away? I mean, obviously he ends up winning by 3 no matter what, with 3 birdies in a row, but do you think this thing is out of hand on Sunday and it's put to bed early, or with that Rory factor, that's what really kind of kept things, the fire going?
The way I look at it, if he would have been playing with anybody else outside of him, or outside of Rory or Scotty, I think he's still going to win by the same amount. He could win by 5. And it would have been an easy, smooth, let's go out and shoot 72. Even 1 under, and it'd be fine. I think knowing you're playing with somebody who could easily turn a switch on and make it a different feeling for you made a huge difference.
So with that being said, I don't want to get off of the Wyndham Clark train here yet. With this win, that's 3 wins on the season: the Byron CJ Cup, obviously the U.S. Open, and now a FedEx Cup playoff event. Does this, in your mind, put Wyndham Clark in the conversation for Player of the Year? Or, as a lot of people have said, you can tell me all you want, but it's Scottie Scheffler's Player of the Year?
Well, I was going to touch on that a little bit, but yeah, I think with him winning, I think it does change the conversation, but it changes it to the point where it's not a Scottie clearly has it. Now there's going to be some other mixes in there, whether it's going to be the Rory or pick somebody else who's close. But I think he has a case now to be at least thought of.
Because I was going to say there's a couple of guys that if they win this week, not named Scottie Scheffler,
right,
that have a real good chance of winning Player of the Year. Matt Fitzpatrick. Matt Fitzpatrick hoists the cup on Sunday. I would have a hard time saying that Matt Fitzpatrick wasn't the Player of the Year. Wyndham Clark. He wins the Tour Championship. He is the Player of the Year. 4 wins. I don't care how many seconds Scottie has.
Right.
It's a dumb. The guys that I look at, if Rory wins, now he's got the Masters and he's got the Tour Championship. Rory has been very outspoken about who he thought was the Player of the Year. Even after last week, I think he said commentary, and I'm paraphrasing here. It opens the discussion up at this point.
100%.
I'm having a hard time saying Cam Young. Even with a Tour Championship and a Players, I think that's a tough one to overcome all of what Scottie's done. I mean, candidly, the guy blew the field away in FedEx Cup points. It wasn't even close.
Right.
Between him and Fitzy, and those two will tee it up at 2:00 on Thursday, as the final group in numbers 1 and 2. So it'll be fun to see that group going out. But you've got Wyndham sitting there at 4th, Cam Young at 3rd. You've got Siwoo Kim, Chris Gotterup. I'm looking at it. Fitzy? I think it's between Fitzy, Scottie, and Wyndham at this point.
I agree with you. I think Rory's name is going to be up there just because. But I do think, if you look at what Fitzy's done this year, you had 6 wins, 6 big wins for him.
Yeah.
And he's going to be up there. And if he wins, it's going to throw a wrench in everybody's. And I'm a Scottie fan, but it's going to throw a wrench in the Scottie should have had this from the get-go.
It's take fandom out of it. Yes, I love Scottie Scheffler. You and we've talked about this repeatedly. I love Scottie, but at some point you've got to look at what have they done throughout the entire season. And I know a lot of people will say, the metrics and the stats show that Scottie Scheffler is the number one player, but also the Player of the Year based on his finishes. By the way, you just made a cool another, $25 million.
Right.
Just for beating everybody. I guess my question really at this point is, outside of those guys, do you see anybody else that has a shot at it, or is it just it's one of those 3 and everybody else is just playing for the trophy at this point?
I think it's down to those 3. And it's really going to be which one of those 3 or 4 really plays this weekend. Who's going to pull it out, who's going to do something.
Yeah, and it's fun to see some of those things. Speaking of Rory, obviously amazing bounce back this week. Memphis, I said it last week, and of course, the podcast didn't go through, but you could tell Rory. You could say he was shaking off the rust for not playing for 3 weeks. Rory looked like he didn't want to be there and didn't care to be there, and just was like, I am out here to shake some hands, sign some autographs, hit some golf shots, knock some rust off, and I'm on to the BMW.
Yeah, I mean, he finished, 66th? And then
pretty much.
Yeah, and then he bounces back. What did it say? He went... Yeah, he made a good turnaround to show that he's still in it, but at the same time, he needs to play this week.
Yeah, Rory goes 64, 69, 65, 69 after taking, taking his break, at Memphis. Is Rory back? Is Rory? If you're handicapping the field this week, obviously the best 30 this season are here in Atlanta. Is Rory back? Do you expect Rory to be there contending on Sunday, or do you think even with a good week like he had at BMW, it's just not motivating enough for him?
I think that I do think he is back. I don't think he's going to be back to that 100% Rory. I do think you'll hear his name this weekend pushing. But I don't know if he pulls it out at the end. Top 5. I see a top 10. I don't see Rory, coming down the stretch, because the last couple of years at East Lake, he hasn't played well. Now, obviously, brand new golf course out there. There's not a lot you could say about it besides Tommy Fleetwood playing really well out there last year that knows the new East Lake. So that being said, Rory and Xander Schauffele tee it up at 12:54 on Thursday together. That's going to be a good matchup. I'm looking forward to it because in December I picked Xander to win the Tour Championship, so I've got some interest in that one. The group two before that, Hideki Matsuyama and Akshay Bhatia will go off. Hideki is Mick's pick for this week for the Tour Championship. Chris, I'm going to ask you, outside of anybody named Scotty, who do you got? I have an interesting dark horse I think is going to win, in my opinion.
Okay.
Mr. Fleetwood.
Tommy Fleetwood going back-to-back Tour Championships.
I think so. I mean, I looked at this and I thought about this, and outside of my normal go-tos, with this house being go-to. Well, this house has two, but yeah, one go-to. Well, I have one, and I think Tommy Fleetwood is going to do it, and I think it's going to be a very tight Sunday.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if Tommy's up there. He has been playing some good golf since the Open. This is the kind of field that he does well in. He's playing alongside Ludwig Oberg on Thursday. So good. That's a good young group going out on Sunday or on Thursday. So that should be some fun. Outside of my pick, obviously, and I picked Xander for all intents and purposes. One, I felt like this was going to be more of a rebound year. I'm kind of disappointed to see how Xander's played this year off the injury of last year. But this tournament, this golf course, redesigned or not redesigned, fits Xander's game. Who else are you keeping your eye on this week, Chris, out at the Tour Championship? That, man, it wouldn't surprise you if on Sunday, alongside Tommy and Scotty and a couple other names, who would you not be surprised that they're going to be there?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would like to see Gary Woodland.
Yeah,
I'd like to see his name in the mix. I like him a lot. outside of just the normals, I think those two are the names that are really that I'd like to see up there and do something.
Speaking
you can't
of
really
Gary,
go wrong with any of them.
Yeah, let me ask you this question though: Gary Woodland, is he on the President's Cup?
Ooh. Fan favorite, I'd say yes. I think he deserves to be up there. I think he's playing really well right now, and I think his reset button is good in the middle of a round.
Well, and I think here's a couple of things. I think, one, his length and how well he controls the golf ball fits the golf course that they're going to be playing at, one. Two, he's playing far better golf than the guys that are, quote unquote, in front of him right now. I think I said this a couple weeks ago. I'll say it again. I said it with James a couple weeks ago. 2 years is way too long of a stretch to be calculating points for a team like this. And I get you need time. Guys have to play certain. I think you got to look at the number of events that these guys are playing, how they're playing at the big tournaments where all the names are there, not just some of these smaller field events. They win here. It was really cute. Jackson Koivin's name being thrown out there for a week or two. But at the same time, when I look at the list, guess who's playing at Eastlake this week in the top 30?
Right.
Gary Woodland. I think that has to be a big factor as they put the final six together this week. The top six were locked in.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, your favorite drafts are poured at a frosty 29 degrees, and rare barrel-aged whiskeys are served just the way you want them. It's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch every day from lunch to late night? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Twin Peaks Scratch Kitchen scores every time. Dig into hand-smashed burgers, chef-inspired flatbreads, and more at your local lodge.
I'm going to ask you this question, Chris, kind of, also looking at Eastlake. Obviously, Matt Fitzpatrick, number 2. Alex Fitzpatrick makes it, his brother, into the field. How cool would that be to see a Sunday finale, the Fitzpatricks coming down
in the same
18,
pairing,
battling it out for the Tour Championship? How fitting would that be? Brother gets him in, and Alex goes out and takes him out in the Tour Championship. That would be fun. In my eyes, Chris Gotterup. I think Gotterup has played some really good golf. Be fun to see Chris win. That's another name that was there for Player of the Year for a while, but then obviously Chris, he ties for 4th at the BMW, but at the same time really hasn't played great golf over the last month or so. The one guy that we won't see for the first time in his PGA career here, Sungjae Im. Sungjae misses out on his first Eastlake experience. It would have been fun to see Mick's old mate out there once again. Minwoo Lee misses out. Kurt Kitayama, Ricky Fowler, and my guy JT Poston. Posty didn't, sat at going in at 32 and finishes at 32. But, again, I think the top 50 guys know what their destination looks like now in 2028. Obviously, they're going to need a good year this upcoming year to make the top 90. But really, you'd have to have a major injury or something go awfully wrong to fall outside of the top 50 and not be a part of this champions line, so to speak, tier coming up. And we got some comments today from the CEO, Brian Rolap, about the future of what's going to happen with the Tour Championship. Did you have a chance to see Mr. Rolap's comments? What are some of your thoughts as it pertains to what's going to be happening with the PGA Tour?
As far as the changes to it,
yeah.
So it's a 2-week match play.
2-week match play.
That's what I was reading. Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a different twist. And he said that the fans wanted something different. I didn't see anything go out to the fans asking if this was it, but it is a change.
It's certainly a change. I mean, we don't play match play at all throughout the year, and yet we're going to decide the tour champion as in a match play format. There were a couple other pieces, though. They are going to recognize the player that has the most amount of points. So Scotty would be, so to speak, the players' champion, the tour champion,
right?
For the year. So kind of like the President's Cup in the NHL, the top winner and the top points getter in the NBA. Same thing goes with baseball. But in fairness, in all those sports, it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. It comes down to the postseason. Now, in some of those cases, you're playing, 5-game or 7-game series, and you've got a shot to outmatch somebody. I think the hard part for me, and I'm trying to be objective as I can, this rotating tour championship finale. I look at, and I wish I would have been able to be over there today, this morning. I would have loved to have asked the question to Brian, what happens with Atlanta? Do they get to see a championship series event, full field event? Atlanta has supported the tour championship for years now with limited field, 30-man field. They have showed up. They have braved heat. They've braved storms. They've done everything that they can. We've raised millions of dollars, not only for the East Lake Foundation, but also First Tee Atlanta. You start seeing that development of that program. Coca-Cola, Accenture, and just and Southern Company. You just sit there and go, what happens with that? Brian Roloff hasn't rolled that out. Chris, what do you think happens with Atlanta? Do they get a Champions Series event on an annual basis and become part of this rota, so to speak, of the Tour Championship, or do you think Atlanta's on the outside looking in and maybe we'll see a second-tier event?
I would hope that they would bring something here. Unfortunately, I think that they might have good intentions to do it, but I think it might end up being like what we have at Sugarloaf. We have another senior event in town. We have something else come into here, but just not what we're used to, which would be unfortunate. Yeah, which is unfortunate because I'm not saying I'm not taking anything away from that tour, but these were big boys, so to speak, and I think as a city we should have it or something along those lines.
Well, you're the number 7th media market in the entire country. You're still one of the largest growing and fastest growing major cities in the United States. More and more folks are moving to Georgia, and you can give credit to the governor, Brian Kemp, and also Andre Dickens here in Atlanta, the mayor. The mayor, since taking over a couple of years ago, has done amazing work here in Atlanta after the corruption of the former mayor and what was going on in her administration. But you sit there and you look at what the Tour Championship has brought to the city of Atlanta. Melding culture together with the sport. You've got a ton of African American, you've got a ton of women, a ton of kids that are playing the game. We get to play the game pretty much 49 weeks out of the year, 48 weeks out of the year. Give 2 to 3 weeks a year due to too much coldness, and I say that tongue in cheek, coming from Michigan. We don't see anything like that. You could still get out there and play. It might be a little chilly, and your hands might sting a little bit, but that's the great part about being here in Georgia and in Atlanta. And I would hate to see the tour take away something. I'd also be hard pressed to see them take a Champions Tour away, a championship track, so to speak, when one of your major investors into the PGA Tour, part of the SVG group, is Arthur Blank. I think that's one of those things where I will be shocked to see us lose something like that. But I kind of there hasn't been enough buzz, so to speak, about us maintaining or keeping something along those lines. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we'll know more. Well, speaking of no more, LIV finished off its season there in Indiana last week. Chris, I'm going to ask you the question I ask Mick way too often. Was that the end of LIV Golf, or are we going to see LIV Golf 2.0 in a different version in 2027?
I think that LIV in its old form is done. You won't see another one like that, but I think there will be another version of that coming with the new investor that they found to go through 2027. I think there's going to be some form of it. It just won't be what it is.
I'm with you. I don't know which investor is going to get behind it because there's a lot going around right now. Social media. Bryson's post saying it was a good run. Bryson is a master troller of social media. That could mean it was a good run this season for his team, the Crushers. It was a good run in general with LIV. Who knows what Bryson meant by that? Only Bryson knows, and
right.
Bryson's social media team knows what they were really meaning behind it. I look at this, and I'm going to ask you in this sense, with the LIV ecosystem kind of crumbling underneath itself with the financial system, which big name players do you expect to see in 27 on the PGA Tour? And obviously, the big picture for Brian Rolap has been painted. It's 2028. I'm sure you're going to start seeing restructuring of TV agreements and stuff like that. I don't expect to see Jon Rahm next year on the PGA Tour. I expect to see Jon Rahm on the PGA Tour in 2028. I don't expect to see Bryson DeChambeau. I think Bryson is headed for YouTube golf and is happy doing what he's doing. I think he'll play some DP World Tour events. He'll get his invites to some of the majors, and I think Bryson's just going to do Bryson.
Right.
Joaquin
look at the
Niemann
people.
is one that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Joaquin Niemann is one that I'd be interested to seeing coming back. I love Harold Varner, but I don't see Harold. Again, I don't know what the tour is going to do. These guys are all still suspended. I heard people talk about, well, Jon Rahm, now this gives Jon Rahm a chance to come back to the tour. Jon Rahm hasn't made any agreements with the tour. And last I checked, that deal went off the table in February to the track to return, so to speak. So I'll be curious to see what Brian does there.
Well, I looked it up yesterday, looking at that.
Yeah.
I looked it up, and it was like, so there's 3 ways to get back on there. You play Corn Ferries or whatever, and you earn your way back on there. Okay, well, most of these people can, if you look at the rosters of LIV, sure, you can go out and play a tour. You can pay $5 million and wait for, I think it was 5 years or whatever. But after Brooks, they said it's going to get tougher, so that number's going to go up. And the list to come back is going to be smaller. Or you can be invited back on Champions tournaments. Like whenever you won, you can come back or do whatever. Not a lot of these people on this roster have those championship wins that can bring them back.
Yeah.
So it's going to go back to who wants to play on a small tour or who wants to pay $5 million if that's the number.
Yeah, the number, and then also not being a part of the rev share that goes along with it. That's a big piece. That's
right.
Where I think I get hung up seeing Jon Rahm being back on the PGA Tour. I also look at it, you're going to see, obviously Patrick Reed will be back. He starts playing fall tournaments this year. He's also going to qualify for, a PGA Tour card through the DP World Tour based on his current rank and standing. So, it'll be interesting to see Patrick Reed's going to earn his way back onto the PGA Tour. I think a lot of the LIV guys are going to have to go the DP World Tour route, which is going to be great for the DP World Tour. And I hope that the DP World Tour takes advantage of that notoriety of what those guys can bring. And then, I think by 2028, we're going to see an ecosystem of the best players playing again on the PGA Tour. I just don't see how, again, from a business perspective, I don't understand how the financial model is going to continue to work at these price payouts. I think these are the things that we're going to really be, focusing on. What is going to happen with the financial ecosystem of the PGA Tour? So
right, yeah. Some of these names it'll be interesting to see who comes back.
I'm going to ask you this question.
Who doesn't?
I'm going to preface this by I did not see this commercial, and I'm usually the guy watching commercials. YouTube fame, I will call it, an apparel company, Good, and the Callaway Golf Company are taking some, Chris, shall I say, heat, so to speak, for the commercial that Good put out over the weekend. Chris, did you see the commercial?
I saw a clip of it. I didn't see the whole thing. But I've read some comments and I've done some research on it, and that's it. Huh.
Yeah,
somebody missed that email.
That's it, huh? You don't want to pass the hot potato around, huh?
No, I just think that my feeling on Good is, and some other people said this too, is that they're irrelevant to a point. Like Good is, they're allowed to make this weird, immature, stupid, whatever they want to make, and they're doing it. Callaway approved said commercial at some point, so it's not all their fault. I think it's both back and forth, but I will watch it later on today just to kind of put it all together. But I don't. They're just
I think you and I are along. See, I didn't see the commercial in the broadcast. I happened to be scrolling on social media later on as I was grabbing content for this, actually for our podcast, not knowing that it was going to be you and I. It was just more so me doing my research for Mick and I and for the podcast this week. And all of a sudden on my feed on X, all of a sudden I started seeing the commentary about Good, and it was trending Good commercial, and I was like, what is going on? And I saw it and I was just like, where did this happen? And then you start reading the comments that it aired during the broadcast, and I'm like going, wait, first of all, who approved that commercial? Well, let me take that another step back, because doing what I do and writing commercials and selling commercial inventory for a living, who even came up with the creative on that one, and who was producing it and shooting it, and then say, guys, I don't know if this is a good idea. Who is the chief marketing officer here on this that on Monday should have been fired immediately? Who at Callaway Golf approved this? They should have been fired on Monday. And then after that, my comment will be, hey guys, YouTube golf and apparel doesn't mean you get big boy choices in the media world. This is bro golf gone wrong. Right. And that's the problem with a lot of these YouTube streamers, and they don't think through everything. The PGA Tour is catching some heat because Good has come on as a tour sponsor, and they're going to have an event in November. This is the time where I think there's got to be some careful self-reflection on who are we partnering with, and where are we going? Who are we partnering with to grow the game of golf? Because right. I can certainly tell you, the folks that I know that are in the space of what the tour does for charity, it's sickening. As a dad of 3 girls, I'd love to get a hold of whoever wrote that content. But at the same time, I'm glad I didn't see it because guess what? It was stupid.
Right.
And you know,
well, it's also one of those things where the gist of it was where, and I didn't see it, so I don't know this, but a male pushed a female down, or somewhere in that realm of space.
One of the co-owners, yes, one of the founders of Good, yes.
So if
as she was going for his Callaway driver,
right. So if I'm Callaway and I approved it, it's going to have to make it back up to whoever approved it to see it. How about we say, hey guys, how about you not push a female to the ground? How about we just make this known for everybody? That's just not, I mean, the chain. I want to know their chain of who was involved in that whole thing. Just, I don't know.
That's where I'm at. Like, where did this go? Where did somebody say, this guy?
This is a good idea.
This is a great spot, man. I cannot wait. And then somebody at CBS, when they put that, the traffic managers that put that through the system, man, woo! Like, what?
Yeah.
Whoa. Like,
he's like, man, I got this great new commercial I want to show you. Watch this. Like, no,
and
not
it's
a good
not even
idea.
a good commercial because if
right.
you really, I mean, what we're all talking about is a guy pushing over a female. The rest of the commercial is, what is it about? Is it about apparel? Is it about Callaway Golf? What is it about? And that's where it's lost on me. Is we've already spent too much time on it,
right.
But it's something that we've got to address because, as Mick and I have talked about, as you have talked with about on our channel, this is what you do for a living. That's growing the game of golf, teaching young folks as well as guys even in my age, women of my age and younger. Like, we're growing the game. That's not the way you grow the game. Like,
there's nothing good. There was just nothing good about that. Like, is Good not going to be the official apparel line for Callaway? Like, what? How did this work out? I mean, yeah. I do know that so Callaway came out and apologized and they addressed it, and it should have been done then. Like, it shouldn't have gotten as much attention as it is, moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's unfortunately, when you're looking at the news cycle of what's going on, it happens on the weekend. There's not a lot going on, besides what the standard news is always talking about these days.
Right.
So it gains some attention, and in the day and age of where we're at, it's going to get talked about on podcasts like ours. It's going to be talked about on national radio. It's going to be talked about on other podcasts, similar format like us. It's not doing a service to the game. It just, again, it sets us back. And whatever those two companies decide to do, hopefully they get it right the next time, and we'll see it from there. So, are you gonna get your way out to East Lake this week?
If we do have a chance, I'm going to try to make it Saturday. I have a parent-child golf tournament Sunday that I will be playing in.
Nice.
And so we're going to try. We'll try to make it out there Saturday.
I was out there yesterday. I am heading back out tomorrow. I will not be here this weekend. I am actually going to miss the actual Tour Championship for the first time since moving here to Atlanta. And that is because I am taking my middle child to college. And I know you know the feeling.
Oh, it's been a rough couple weeks in this house.
Yeah,
but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it is good. I'm excited for her and sad for us. I'm sure there will be some tears shed this weekend. Mick and I will be back on next week to recap the season. Hopefully, Mick. Maybe it might be Chris. It might be James. It might be Chris and James. Who knows? We'll figure that out next week. Thanks for teeing it up with us on Tales from the Tips. If you're catching us on YouTube, make sure you give us a like, hit that subscribe button, drop us a comment. We love to hear from you. You can find every episode where you find your favorite podcast: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and now we are available on the iHeart podcast platform. That's right. Just search for Tales from the Tips under podcast. Hit that plus button, subscribe, and enjoy. Chris, you can find us on all the socials: Instagram, X, and Mick's favorite,
TikTok.
That's right, Mick and the TikTok. And you can watch Chris and I live on Twitch. And now we're available on YouTube Live. That's right, YouTube Live. You get the unedited, raw version. Even when Mick is speaking and you can't understand what he's saying, you can hear that too before Slim gets his fine fingerprints on this and makes it actually sound decent. And you can always catch all of our YouTube shorts and videos out on YouTube. Chris, if you're getting ready to play, I know we're teeing it up in a couple of weeks in Cobb County to back the blue, playing with my good friend James and the company from Twin Peaks. You and I are not playing in the member guest.
We did not make the field.
We did not make the cut, ladies and
We will
gentlemen.
be there next year.
We'll keep our drive straight and our putts short and our scores low. We'll see you next time on Tales from the Tips. Thanks, everybody.